Hello, YouTube. This is a beer review. Boulevard Brewing Company's Chocolate Ale. There you are. Limited release. States on the label that it is ale with cocoa nibs and vanilla extract. 12 fluid ounce bottle. And that's about all it has to say. Which is funny because this has a little bit of a history here in the heart of the empire. Boulevard Brewing is one of the largest, if not the largest, beer brewer in the heartland, at least as concerns my area. They went and several years ago decided to make a chocolate beer for Valentine's. This was a huge stir, created a huge hit, but unfortunately, by year number 2, year number 3, they didn't remain consistent with the formula, and whatever happened to that particular year made people sick. And they almost canceled the whole idea of this chocolate beer after that. It's been fine ever since, and the people who got sick just simply, it wasn't life threatening, but it was definitely um, a punch in the schnoz to the company. Very, very, very little smoke comes out. Alrighty. Give it the turn. I expected darker. It is a nice tight lace. That doesn't last very long. You see it already just starting to dissipate. Lots of carbonation. It is pretty. It has a light chocolatey and a very light vanilla, but it's competing with that ale nose to it. Now, unlike say pilsners or other thing, it is not a heavy bitter beer. Like I said, you'd find it with the pilsner, but there's so many different beers, so many different ales. They all have their own different characteristics. I could go on for the longest time trying to explain who, what, where, and still we'll probably get most of it wrong because they interlap and crisscross and opinions. So we'll just go with what we have here. It has a light cocoa nose, a light vanilla nose, a nice light beer nose. All blends well together, and then fades away quickly. It has a. It starts off very nice, very light on the palate, and the cocoa and the vanilla are almost to the point where it is hard to taste them definitively. The ale is very light and refreshing, but it's competing with those other two off flavors, and it starts to win. By the time you'd expect the hang time to be over, which is the taste you get from the beginning of that sip till it's finally gone out of your palate, that's the hang time. By the time you think the hang time's over, that ale is still there, and it's starting to pick up speed. As it picks up speed, it picks up bitterness of that hoppiness coming in through. So, if you're a beer fan, you like the bitter. Can't think of the different styles right now, of course. Um, And not so much an English pale ale. There's more to it. An Indian pale ale maybe. It's not a hot bomb by any stretch of the imagination, but it just creeps up and builds and mounts onto itself. Before long, you don't taste any of the chocolate, and there is no vanilla to speak of. I usually use vanilla to help iron out any sharp edges when it comes to my meads and other things because it's such a almost like a flat. I don't want to call it earthy, but it's a nice like a base coat in paint. It does the job well for that. Then the other flavors can come through much easier, especially if they've got sharp edges. It just hones those down. Everything kind of melds together. This is like it's a race, and everybody jumps off the mark at a nice even pace, and the chocolate, what little there is, fades out quick. The vanilla quickly fades, and then this hop just bowls through and gets worse. Well, intensifies greater and greater and greater. By the time it's off the palate, all you're tasting is hop. So yeah, great beginning. Not a fan of the end. In the meantime, the mouthfeel is very light. Usually you expect cocoa as well as vanilla to add weight onto the mouthfeel, and it does not. What gives it weight is back that hop thing again. So ice cold, summertime, fantastic. But you can't get that during that time. This is a February type of beer only. I just happened to find this one hiding in the back of my fridge with a few of its little brothers and sisters waiting to be snatched up. It just simply got forgotten. I don't think that's what the problem is. I don't think it's too old at all. It's not skunked. But we're also not in February. As for would this be a good beer in February? It does have the body due to that hoppiness to take on the snow. But I guarantee you, if it's a bad February and there's a lot of snow and a lot of cold and you're just hunkered down, it might be too light. This would be a very good, shoot, fall. Be a great time for this. February is way too winter, not enough spring. Would this be good in spring? I can see that. I can see a similar formula being peddled to those out there at Easter time. Put instead of such a dark, foreboding label onto it, uh, Easter like colors. Call your Easter egg brew. Something along that line. As for, like I said, February and Valentine's, yeah, depends on the year, depends on how bad that February is in that year, I should say. It's all right. It fits okay. I wouldn't call it a perfect fit, but close enough. The fact that it's a limited release adds a specialness to it that I like. And next year, well, depending on the cocoa nibs and depending if they're going to change the formula, they were doing that almost every year was tweaking it out to make sure it's just right. Then Boulevard got sold to a bunch of Europeans and no longer an American beer, now somebody else's beer. And yeah, that bitterness just mounts. You'd hope it was the chocolate that will start building up onto itself. And it's not. It's that hop. Maybe it's just a characteristic of ales. And I'm just not drinking enough ales to compensate for that. Maybe that's what the problem is. I said, as beers go, it's a fine beer, but honing it down, my palate is not as refined as I would like it to be for ales versus pilsners versus ports versus all those other ones to really find out all the different subtleties for such a huge array of flavors. This could be top notch, and I'm just sadly not giving it the credit it deserves. Give it a try. See what you guys think. I know it's not February, and by the time you guys watch this, it be even further down the year yet. But if you remember this or haven't been watching it on February, this is Boulevard Chocolate Ale, Valentine's Day, limited release. And a comment about this particular product down below be warmly accepted, as always. Better yet, go out now when it's out, buy it and try it and tell what you think. So maybe I'm just not giving it the credit it deserves. Beer is one of the things I'm fascinated by, but I don't have a huge experience with all the different flavors, all the different subtleties, and all the different nuances that all the different beers have out there to give a very strong, this is sort of thing. But I don't know. Maybe I'm on, maybe I'm not. You guys, let me know what you think. In the meantime, keep on drinking.